On this episode of Foster Denovo Talks, we meet with Liberty. Liberty talks to us about her experience of working in an IFA firm in Spain.
It was meant to initially be for a gap year,
Okay.
and that gap year turned into a gap 10 years.
Right.
And I managed to land in the financial services industry about the age of 18.
Why she moved back to the UK and what nearly stopped her continuing in this industry.
Well, I decided that I needed to make changes. That's ultimately, I had to go back to the drawing board and figure out it wasn't sustainable how I was working. And that wasn't fair on myself, my son, or my clients. So I had to make changes, and I decided at that point that strategically, being in the UK, being around family, having a village was what the core needed to be. I was told that I was too young, I was female, and that no one would take me seriously in an advising role. It definitely was fuel, and it definitely, that sort of sparked my initial career break.
So do check it out. Hi Liberty, thank you for joining me on Foster Denovo Talks.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolute pleasure. Let's start at the very beginning, shall we? So let's talk about your early career. How did it all unfold?
So I initially wanted to work my way up to become a solicitor. So I studied as a legal secretary in college, and whilst I did so, I was also part-time working in the city for my family's demolition firm, of all places.
Glamorous.
Very much so. And then I decided to make a big life move, or shall we say, and I decided to move overseas. My father had always lived in Spain, so I packed up my car, drove out to Spain, and made the sort of life-changing decision to move overseas. It was meant to initially be for a gap year, and that gap year turned into a gap 10 years.
Right.
And I managed to land in the financial services industry about the age of 18, actually.
I was going to say, how old were you? So you were only 18, packed up the car, went to Spain.
Landed in this crazy industry that I knew nothing about and had no sort of real desire to initially work in, and realised that it was right up my street, and had the desire to work my way up the ranks. So yeah, I started as a personal assistant to a top advisor within a firm.
So you started in an IFA firm, effectively.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Yeah, correct. So predominantly dealing with pensions,
Right.
cure-ups, transfers, and then international SIPs, that kind of thing. But yeah, pension, investments, tax structuring, all of that good stuff.
Okay, so you started as a PA there. And then how did that progress then? Because obviously you were there 10 years, so things have moved on. So,
so
talk to me about next steps.
Initially, I came on board as a PA and quite quickly had a desire to work my way up through the ranks. A little bit of healthy being told I couldn't made me very much want to. Also seeing people who were really new into the firm, but being promoted into those advisor roles before finalising all of their exams as a trainee advisors and stuff like that, and not sort of having the ability to have that opportunity, I felt somewhat unfairly.
Okay, so it's pushed you forward,
me forward, yeah. And so the company I was working for was regulated through the Central Bank of Ireland, and so to become Irish qualified, I had to sit 6 exams, which I did within a year, whilst I was working full-time. In a sort of crazy turn of events, I actually found out I was pregnant the week of my last exam.
Oh, wow.
So I then was at this sort of crossroads and not sure what I wanted to do. But when I came back from maternity leave, really had the desire to push forward and become an advisor, which I was just met with sort of stumbling blocks. I'd been told prior to maternity leave that I had fucked my career by falling pregnant. And I then decided to not use that as a reason to stop, but pretty much as fuel to and fire to carry on.
Right.
I had a quite a monumental conversation with the managing director when I was back from maternity leave, because I wasn't earning enough money. I was a single parent at that point, and I needed to make changes in order to survive. And I was told that I couldn't do that. I was told that I was too young, I was female, and that no one would take me seriously in an advising role.
Right. So, yeah, lovely words. Yeah. Like a big warm hug. That's what you felt.
Yeah, it definitely was fuel. And it definitely, that sort of sparked my initial career break, shall we say, from financial services. I decided it was a man's world and it wasn't for me. And I think that lasted about 2 weeks.
Right.
Before a friend and mentor of mine pushed me to come back into the sector. She actually completed my CV for me and sent it to the director of the firm that she was working for, and I had a job, I think, within a couple of weeks after that. So
fantastic. So what was the role that she got you into, basically, then?
Advising. It was my
straight
first,
into advice.
Yeah, it was. I went from not sure if I was cut out for it, because I had been continuously told that I wasn't, to just going for it. And I started from zero. I was a self-employed financial advisor with no client bank. And
a small baby. My goodness.
At that point, he wasn't so small. He was maybe 18 months, I think. So yeah, after maternity leave, after being told I couldn't progress within the company I was in. Yeah. So about 18 months, 2 years old.
Wow. Okay. And what was it like? Because you'd been told no, and then you went into this firm and they took you on. And what was it like, sort of trying to give advice? We've got no client bank and building all of that in a European advice type world.
It was a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a male-dominated industry where that caused sometimes barriers. I didn't just have to do my job, I also had to prove my worth. I was often the only woman in the room. I was often having to not just do the same as my peers, but go above and beyond. And actually that made me stand out to clients, I believe. But it also was, it was a lot. I wasn't just working at 100% all the time. I was having to do more and more, and it took its toll.
Yeah, and I can imagine. And you were still young at that time.
I believe I started advising at 24, 25. I became a qualified advisor at 21 and had my son at 22. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay. And how did you go about it then? Because you said you were self-employed. Mm-hmm. You've got no client bank.
No.
You're a young advisor and female, which is slightly looked down on, you were saying. So how did you actually go about doing it and making it successful?
So having a mentor was a massive part of my story. The woman who got me the job, who I mentioned, she, when I first came into the financial services industry at 18, was the only female advisor within the company I came into.
Okay,
and
wow.
I just found her so inspiring. She really pushed me, she helped me, and together we co-created it's a bit of a cliche, women in wealth.
No, I like it.
But we had fun doing it, and I think that also portrayed, but we created a sort of safe environment where women felt as though that they could come to us and talk, and that consistency in showing up, events, networking, meant that in time we had laid like foundations in order for us to start receiving referrals, and not just for females as well. They would be referring their husbands and their family, and it just sort of snowballed from there, really.
And how long did that sort of go on for then?
That was maybe just over 2 years. I don't like to call it burnout. I prefer to call it maybe just emotional exhaustion.
Right. Yeah.
I had a young son. I was a single parent. I felt as though I was going above and beyond, not just to do my job, but to prove my worth.
Yeah.
And it took its toll. I then had a sort of I had a car crash, and it just made me realise that I was sort of sustaining,
right,
but maybe not thriving.
Yeah.
And it was quite a tricky period of time there.
So what happened then? So you had you had a car accident. What happened after that then? You're emotionally exhausted at this point as well. So
I decided that I needed to make changes. that's ultimately, I had to go back to the drawing board and figure out it wasn't sustainable how I was working. And that wasn't fair on myself, my son, or my clients. So I had to make changes. And I decided at that point that strategically, being in the UK, being around family, having a village was what the core needed to be. And then I would build out from there. And so I took a step back to take a step forward.
Okay.
And I often worried that no longer advising, whether that would be a negative thing or something I would regret or something that did look like it was a failure. But actually, it was a monumental move in my career that I'm really proud that I took at that point instead of holding on until it got too much.
No, I think it's you recognised it and you made the decision, isn't it? I mean, it seems like you like to make these sort of big decisions, don't you, at points in your life. So you came back to the UK. How was that then? Did you feel better? Did you feel going back to your old self?
Oh gosh, no. No,
it was horrible, Helena.
I had a whole identity crisis around that. But I'd lived in Spain for all of my adult life. I then was moving back to a place that had changed drastically. Also, the offshore financial services industry is what I knew, and I knew it well. The good, the bad, the ugly, I knew it. But it's different in the UK. Spain's probably, well, I would say the European financial services or overseas financial services industry is possibly deemed, from my point of view, 10, 20 years behind that of the UK. They don't have diversity and inclusion, and it's not at the forefront of what they're doing. And I was fortunate enough in all of the learning that I did in that time to have good role models and be working with good people, because there was so much good that really taught and drove home the importance of that, in order for me to then relay that into who I wanted to be and what career I wanted to have. But coming back to the UK, it was a bit of an epiphany, actually. I kind of had this moment and I was like, oh, wow, I can just do the job and not have to worry about all of that noise that was so prominent overseas. From a personal point of view, it was different. I had to find my feet. I feel like a tourist in my own home, and that's really interesting. But I have a massive family, and there's so many pros that they massively outweigh the cons.
Oh no, fair enough. And how have you got to us at Foster Denovo then? It's an interesting one, wasn't it?
Yeah. My story and how I was introduced to Foster Denovo, obviously via Nikos, who is the advisor which I work with. It was quite an interesting one. He added me on LinkedIn, and I did the whole thank you for your connection request. To which he asked if I was looking for a job in the industry. And I was. I knew that I wanted to come back into financial services. And I knew that I wanted it to look very different.
I was going to say, so you weren't put off then by what you'd experienced in Spain?
No, I wasn't put off. I was hesitant.
Right.
I had to do some soul searching to decide if I wanted to let that define me or if I wanted to find something better. And it was, I definitely took a risk. And I think risk taking is something that I've been pretty good at. I've taken many risks in my career, and some of them have been great. Some of them have been a learning curve.
Yeah.
But I took a risk in my interview, which you was there.
I was there. I was indeed. Yeah.
And I was quite to the point in what I wanted and the morals that I have and what I stand for, and the type of firm that I wanted to work for. And that's what I think really resonated, because it was going to be make or break mentioning that in an interview.
Yeah.
Because I wanted a job. I was looking for a job. I was eager to get back into the industry, and but it had to be right. So
what was it about, the role and Foster Denovo that you thought this is going to work?
I think it was that I knew from the outset that I was going to have that flexibility and that freedom to really develop the role in what I wanted it to be. When I came for the interview, I didn't actually know what I was interviewing for.
I don't think he did either. It's absolutely fine. I think we sort of built it as we were sat there, basically.
Yeah. So initially I was like, okay, is this going to be for some sort of advising role, or is this going to be for an administration role? Like, I had absolutely no idea. It was meant to be a coffee and a chat. It turned out it was a formal interview that I had not prepared for, but was it therefore nonetheless. And the rest was history, really. Nikos is a fantastic advisor who has a great vision, and he needed structure. He needed a lot of structure, but he really needed someone to help him plan and see his vision and sort of help take lead on that with him, because he's so good at planning and then doing the doing, and you got to walk the walk and talk the talk, right? So he needed a number two, and we're now a trio, because another member of his close-knit team came back from sabbatical, and we were all able to lead the practice together and really have this wonderful sort of connection of it's constantly changing, it's diverse, we're coming up with strategies and ideas together, and it's nice to have a voice.
Yeah, because you came in, I think we sort of termed you practice manager. I think that's what we said. But you really, it was a bit of a sort of greenfield sort of site, wasn't it, for you? Like there wasn't really a job description, because whenever you ask, Nikos, what do you want me to do? But like, oh, I think about this, or I think this, or I think this. So you had to sort of build it around him.
Yeah.
And you started doing that. And then, of course, Charlie also came back. So let's say from month one to now, how long have you been here?
It will be
nearly. It's got to be a year.
It's about 14 months.
Is
now.
it? My God.
Yeah.
Okay. So how have things changed since sort of month two then till now?
So
It's a wry laugh.
The first sort of 3 to 6 months was really kind of getting a gauge on Nikos, who he is, what he stood for, and figuring out how we could put systems and processes in place to really build from the center or the foundations up that core sustainability, where we don't have to worry about what's where, it's just done as a fine oiled machine. So it was very much systems, processes, strategic thinking, efficiency was at the forefront of everything, and still is at the forefront of everything that we do. Really to make sure that the clients were at the core of everything, and to make sure that we were providing this real luxury service that Nikos wants to provide for his clients. So the first couple of months was just that. It was come in, hit the ground running. We pivoted, I think, 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, I remember this.
It was pretty monumental, because we was very new in our working relationship, and there was a lot of trust, which had to be gifted, I suppose, or lent from the outset. And now I think it's definitely been earned that we just work together.
Oh, it's a fabulous team. It's great. You all work brilliantly together, and it does work really, really well. What's the next steps for the practice?
Me and the practice, I think, continuing on this new journey of leadership, where we can continue to develop both the business and each of the members within our team. We would like our practice to not have any sort of bottlenecks, and to really have sort of the ability to continue to progress without any one person being stuck doing anything too tedious, and just so that we can scale the business. Ultimately, that's the vision.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I can see that. Finally, and I know this is sort of close to your heart, and obviously the experiences that you've been through. So, what would you say to other women who feel like the industry isn't for them?
The industry probably wasn't built for women. Well, it definitely wasn't built for women, but we either let that define the industry, or we decide that that then means that the industry has the ability to change. Female regulated advisors in the UK make up 16%.
I know it's terrible, isn't it?
16. It's dismal at best. And I think that's because of lack of flexibility. I wouldn't say it's because of lack of opportunity, but ultimately it's just probably something that women don't see as a good fit. And I think that really means that the industry as a whole has this amazing opportunity to develop, so that women also are at the forefront of everything that we do. Also from a business perspective, there's, I believe, 70% of women who would feel more comfortable speaking to a female advisor. And with 2025 bringing in 60, I believe women hold 60% of UK wealth. It shows that there's a massive opportunity for the financial services industry to really be scaling on that. But it means that things do have to change, and conversations do need to be had, and stories do need to be told, because if it doesn't continue to develop and it's not at the forefront of everything that we do, then women won't be coming into these roles.
No, I mean, I completely agree, and it was very well said. I think, it's even, we are more female than male in our company, right? And yet, even with us, where we have all the opportunities and we'll give everyone that works for us the opportunities, we've only had, in the 7 years that I've been here, guys going through being trainee advisors. Mm-hmm. Even though we have more women working in the admin roles that they're working in, none of those have applied. And that's the problem. It's that the opportunities are here, and yet they don't want them. So there is a narrative change that needs to happen somewhere, because it's such a great job. It's got everything. Women are great at this, building relationships and building trust and all that sort of stuff. And yet they're not walking towards it.
Which begs the question as to why.
Exactly. I mean, one that we are not going to unpick today, but I think it's really important and we should definitely think about it. Listen, that's been fascinating. Thank you so much for telling us your story.
Thank you for having me.